Anita ma'am, could you please start the webinar?
Yes. Good morning. A warm welcome to one and all to the day 3 of online international faculty development program on progressing amidst hindrance, turning adversity into opportunity, organized by the PG and Research Department of Commerce, Hindrance College for Women, in collaboration with Miles Education. Let's take a quick recap of yesterday's session, leveraging interactive distance learning for college program. This session was headed by G. Vengat, an educator and a renowned scholar. His expertise powered up a very detailed understanding about distance learning, artificial intelligence in education, methodological e-learning, and a paradigm shift towards hybrid education. Today we have with us Dr. Roswin Joy as a speaker for the session on identifying and addressing research gap. It is my privilege to introduce her. Dr. Roswin Joy is a head of Sustainable Development Goals Center at Presidency University, Bangalore. She obtained a doctorate in economics from Cochin University of Science and Technology. She was working with MNCs before turning to be an academician. Her area of specialization includes business analytics and economics. Dr. Roswin Joy guides many research scholars and has also published many research papers both at the national and international conferences. She has received various awards, to mention a few: KN Raj Fellowship for Economic Researchers in 2013, Young Scientist Award from International Development Research Center in 2011, and the Best Paper Awards in various conferences organized by UGC. I cordially welcome you, ma'am, and I also welcome all the participants to this session. I am sure that this session will be more useful for all of us being academicians. Thank you. Over to Dr. Roswin Joy.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's my pleasure to join the FDP program, International FDP program organized by Etiraj College of Women and the Miles Education in collaboration with Miles Education. Such a wonderful title you have given, like progressing amidst hindrance, turning adversaries into opportunities. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead. You're audible.
Yes. It is a very interesting topic because we are in a era of, it's an year of hindrances. 2020 has been known as the year of COVID-19, and it is a big, to many people, it's a hindrance or it is an adversity. But there are a lot of examples which we can see that if this hindrance or adversity has turned to be an opportunity for all of us. This webinar itself is an opportunity, which has raised out of because of the online, our increased dependence on online education for our betterment. So I'm just switching off my video and I just go to my presentation. I wish to thank Etiraj College and Miles for connecting with us. Thank you so much. Now let me move to my presentation. Identifying addressing research gap. This is one of the questions which I regularly get when I do my webinars, presentations, or I go for conferences, especially from the young research scholars or the beginners of research. So, ma'am, how will you identify a research gap? How can we find out what is a worthwhile research gap to explore on? So this gave me a thought like maybe this is not fundamentally taught at a research methodology level in a deeper sense, which is the reason why we get lot many questions on this. On 8th, I had a presentation for African Business School Morocco, and it was on on SDGs and disaster risk management. And after that, I got 3 mails asking what would be the best research gap area from various they were all research scholars from different countries. So I was like thinking through, this is a not just a problem which is faced by a developing country or a in our Indian context. This is a problem which is universal in nature. So it is important we address it in a way that could help us to explore it better and get some formal tips on what it is on how to go ahead with it. So now let me move to the next one. So in this particular presentation, I will be looking into four things. One, what is a research gap? What are the steps before identifying a research gap? Because that are the steps which will help you to find a research gap. A research gap flow chart. What can all be a research gap? And addressing research gap. This is where my presentation today is all about. So, in a research process, a research is like we are researching for an additional knowledge. My guide of my PhD guide, he always used to tell me, research is like, it's like a bead, it's chain of beads. Your information will be an additional bead to that string of beads. You are not creating that string of beads, but you are just being one particular bead in that string. So in research, we end up contributing to the knowledge, to the body of knowledge. That is what is research about. And for that, there are various steps. Like we have a primary research, then a literature review, evaluation of gaps, prioritization of new research, and then if we can get a funding opportunity, especially if it is a funded project. So this is the steps in general steps in leading to a research process. Further, we do all the data collection, data analysis, all those methodology part are there. But the initial steps can be in this five, and the middle one, the evaluation of gaps, is what we will be addressing today. So for me, what is research gap? Research gap is you are sending tomorrow's problem today to me. Okay. So for example, COVID-19. Everybody is today writing about impact of COVID-19 on agriculture, yeah, impact of COVID-19. Am I there? Because there is a pop-up coming up that my audio cannot has been lost. Hello.
Ma'am, you're clear, ma'am.
Anybody there?
Yes, you're clear,
Because I'm
ma'am.
getting a pop-up, so I'm just getting confused. Okay.
No,
So
your audio is clear.
so basically,
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt you, ma'am. Are you still on the welcome slide, or have you changed the slide, ma'am? Ma'am, you able to hear me?
COVID -19 what will be tomorrow's problem?
Is it clear? Is it clear now? Yeah, now I've given you the organizer, that is the full access, ma'am. Can you just unmute yourself, because you're also an organizer now. Ma'am, okay, now, ma'am, you have any other?
Yes. Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible now. You're
Hello?
audible. Yes, ma'am,
Okay.
you're audible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, fine. So sorry for those technical glitches. Uh, see, I was discussing about research gap. What is research gap for me? So it is your sensing today's, tomorrow's problem today. That is what we call as research gap for me. It is what is research gap. So I was discussing about COVID-19 issue. For example, if today everybody is writing about COVID-19, and there are a lot of scientific studies going on COVID-19, but if you really look it from a social science perspective, most of the work which is done currently are talking about what is the effect of COVID-19 on a particular sector, a particular industry or an economy as such. But it is a problem which we are facing today. So we are describing our problem basically. How can it be moved to a tomorrow's problem? I mean, it's like it is a tomorrow's problem to research. For example, the example which I have in mind is what is the effect of COVID-19 on agriculture, and how it will affect food security of tomorrow's food security. So nobody has analyzed if there is no sowing happening in our farms today, what will be the effect of that in the food production tomorrow, and how are we going to handle that issue? Okay, so that will become a researchable topic, because you are sensing tomorrow's problem today. Okay, so this is, I feel like, what is research gap. And whenever you identify a research gap, it should be interesting. It has three qualities: one, it is interesting; it is feasible; and it is unexplored. So these are the three things which you need to identify. One, it is what whether it is interesting in the sense, if you are talking to about your research gap, what make to some ex person ex maybe you talk to your guide, or your co-researchers who are in your research team. It happens when we discuss our research work. You have to sense what make that topic interesting to them, not to you, to the audience, and why it is interesting. So these questions, when you keep a dialogue, it will come up. Okay, what and why. Next one is feasibility. Is it whether, see, sometimes we cannot find solution to all the problems, and research is a very time bound activity. It is not something like you can't do for lifelong. If your PhD, you have a restriction in time. If you are getting a funded project, there is a time. So you need to understand whether a particular research gap of your interest can be solved in the given time frame. Is it feasible, or is it possible to find a solution within the given uh, time period, and with the given amount which is given for you to do research? So that is feasibility. And is it explored or unexplored, what people have seen about it, and what they are trying beyond. So that is what we have to identify. If you are, see, for example, my competitive advantage is coming. My PhD work was about risk management. Basically, I worked on water quality and how it is affecting production system. But today, when we are facing COVID-19 issue, I getting a competitive advantage because of my title. Because disaster risk management itself is a new area, and what people have seen is it has been looked from natural disasters that, rather than the biological hazards like COVID-19 or things like that. So when we explore it to the next level, it is giving a lot of competitive advantage. So you need to sense whether a particular title I am trying to address is going to give me a competitive advantage. So this is how we identify a research. We have to have a sense about your research gap. Is it solving a tomorrow's problem, and is that solution will be interesting, and is it to be solved in the given time frame, and is it unexplored? So this is what is research gap. And then now, before you come to a research gap, what all things you have to focus? I have 3 steps to it. Focus your research area. So many students used to come to me and ask, I am interested in doing research, but I don't know which area to do research. Especially at the master degree level, they will come and say, "Ma'am, I'm interested, but I don't know where to." So that is what they are attracted to that PhD degree, but they don't have any inclination to any area. So first step is to identify your area or research area where you want to pitch yourself as. Do you want to see yourself as an activist working with communities, or you want to see yourself as a banker, as an economist, a bank? So you need to visualize that what you want to and find out your research area. If you want to be an economist in a bank, you should get into finance. If you want to be working with communities, supporting their social issues, you have to work on sustainability, sustainable research, or economics in general. You can, or sociology also, you can get into. So what excites you? That will give you the lead on which research area. Then need to have a you need to read the exploratory research. It's like, you have not find your title, but you are in general reading about the area where you are interested in. If you are interested in community research, then, or sustainability, then you need to start reading about sustainability, sustainable development goals, then how it is performing, who is evaluating, and all exploratory research. Then one of the biggest mistake people do when they start research, they jump into journals. Journals are important, but always the books are what give you a theoretical base to your work. So once you understand the your area, you need to at least read three start with you at least 3 to 4 books which has which states which states the theoretical progress of that particular field. So that is very important. It can be a read an ebook. These days it's all ebooks and it's all available online. Many libraries are giving it free also. So you can read ebooks, or you can book from your library. So this is what, once you get the area, then you have to pitch in to the theoretical test of that area in general. And then you can discuss with your advisor and other faculty members or your co-researchers to be clear about which that area is exciting to me, or it is just a fad, it will go on. I know that part. Next step is research articles. Second step is research articles. Research articles you read. See, the research articles which all of us read, whoever is interested in research, continuing research, or have been experienced in research, all of us read research articles. But at different stages, we read research articles for different purpose. So that is something which you need to understand. A person who is searching for a research gap will read a research article in a certain way, while a person who is doing research will focus on something else. And a person who is an experienced researcher who have finished his PhD is working on that area will read for a different purpose. Let me look into it, three of it. One, yes, if you are a person who is interested in research, you have not started a research and you don't know research gap. In this scenario, you will read research articles to, you will focus on key messages from the journal, messages of the paper, okay, and suggested future research. So this is what you should focus, okay, future research. So this is your focus when you are just beginning. You don't know what to research, you don't know which way you have to go, but you want to explore your research gap. If you want to, in that stage, your journal, your message, you have to explore on key messages of the paper and what is the suggestions for future research. If you are an existing PhD scholar, or means like you know what is the title you have you want to research, my area of interest and how you should. So here you will focus. You are a PhD scholar or you are working on a particular research project which is already been, you have a fair idea what you are going to explore. In that case, you will see how a particular research work is done. It is more focused on the methodology and the output. Okay, so methodology and or methods used and the output. So this is what is focused when you are a PhD scholar. I mean, you know already the research gap, and you are actually, or you have a project and you earn. So here we will be looking for more methodology and output. And an experienced researcher or person who already finished his PhD program and then exploring for further research, it is like you are trying to understand again a few things. It's a combination of these four. One, what is the new information which has added to the current research of your interest. Okay, so that is key messages of the paper, and then how it is done. Okay, it is so what is the message, the new message, how they have done it, and what is the output. So this is the, so whenever when at different stage of your research you will read a journal for differently. So as our focus for today is identifying research gap, when you are reading a journal, you have to look for key messages of the paper and suggestion for future research. And always look for journals in Scopus and Web of Science, because they are they are ahead in terms of publicizing new findings. So what problem is, if you are following some other journals which are not indexed or indexed in something else, what happens is by the time your research, you will understand that it's already been found by somebody else. So that is to avoid that gap, identify journals which are indexed in Scopus and Web of Science and follow those journals. And you are not only following these journals only for this knowledge, key message and paper, you also, may give you some indication of what is the source of secondary information and also database which you can also ponder to and analyze in a different way. So this is why your second step. Then map out the literature. This is one of the most key important point before you get into a research gap. So here what you have to do is, how will you track it? You can create, I used to do an Excel sheet, but some of my students don't do Excel sheet. I have an Excel sheet where I put the year, then the uh, geographical area that work has been done, the author, the title, and then major objective, what is the key message of the particular paper, what is the method used, and then the major findings. So it is an Excel sheet I maintain. Some people use tables. For me it is table. Somebody may use a chart, somebody use some pictures. So different people have different way of keeping track of what they are reading out. So you can use what is best for you. But the point is, you need to have a track of what the authors told you and the questions that occurred to you. This is very important. How you do it, it's all personal, but keeping a track is very important. So here, what you will write here is what the author has told you, and the last column of my Excel sheet is what is my questions. Okay, when I read this particular, what is the question has arise to me. Okay, that will lead to your research gap. Okay, that questions when you analyze will lead to your research gap. So that is very, very important. It is not just simply reading an article and moving to the next article. There is no point in doing that. You have to write it. You have to write the key message from the article and what is your questions. That means you need to it's like a sounding, it's you have to sound back what is your question from that particular work. Okay, other than that, if you just I did some 150 literature review, I did them 200 papers I have read, doesn't make any sense unless you keep this track of what the authors told you and the questions that occur to you. Okay, so database, so this is with regarding to the um, um, now I want to I was on now this is the research gap chart. It is just a white paper which has been it is not yet public, it is a very recent one. It is will be available soon for downloading. It is still in the, it's a pre-publication, and it's one of my friend has done it. He is from African Business School, so I thought I'll share this with you. This is a very comprehensive map of identifying a research gap. Okay, so as always we say we follow literature review. Why literature review? It will give you the past knowledge or what is existing knowledge. Okay, and that when you write down, I have told no, when what the author said, what is the questions which is arise from me, that is getting into the weakness of the past findings. Okay, weakness of the past findings. Then is it that finding can move to a opportunity which will become the expected knowledge. Okay, so we may find each paper may give you so many questions. Okay, so many questions, all those things are weakness of the past findings, but all those questions may not become a research opportunity. You may look again into those three things which I have told: interesting, feasible, or unexplored. Okay, again you have to rework on those questions and see whether it qualify all these three things. Then if it qualify all these three, then it become a research opportunity and it become an expected knowledge in what is to be required, and you get your research gap. And the research gap can be of gaps can be of 8 type. One, it is the gap in population. So you know what is a population in research. It is a comprehensive group of individuals, institution, objects have a common characteristics that are interest of a researcher. So it can be in a particular type of individuals, institutions, or objects. Institutions are are the formal and informal policies which are followed, then the objects which are used. So that is specifically to the chemistry kind research. And so this see, it's a kind of common characteristics. So that is there a gap in that particular population? They have not addressed a particular community or particular level of people. So that is what is gap in population about. So next is gap in analysis. For example, when I did a if you really look the cost benefit analysis of natural resources. Okay, uh, so the analysis will focus more about the cost of a particular resource in terms of its usability and all those things. So when it sometimes don't give some variables such as if I have a quality of a water quality is deteriorating and I that is a resource for my production, and if it is not worth enough, means like it is not giving you the right worth enough, what will I do? I have to improve the quality of the water, right? So for that, what will I do? I need to extra cost in maintaining that improving that water quality, testing that water quality. So many variables are there. These variables may not be used in the analysis, because in the cost benefit frame it is not added. So that is a gap in analysis which I had addressed during my PhD program. So I added few more extra variables into the cost benefit analysis of natural resources. So that was it. Then next one is gap in implementation. Gap in implementation is sometimes, you know, in a very conservative lab environment, certain experiments work, but whether it can be applied on field, whether it be application level, when you apply it, it may not work, may work, it may work better. So it can be of different it can be of different varying conditions, you know. So research article you read might be about a lab experiment where a particular experiment has been done to understand what is the relationship between cause and effect relationship of two variables, and you want to see whether in the field it is happening. You have to see in the field work whether it is working or not. So you can use the theoretical frame which has come in the lab, but and apply it in the field and see whether the same relationship exists. Especially in social science research, there is a high tendency that it don't work. Even science, the water quality can be improved in the lab, but when it comes to a lake scenario, it may not be able to improve in the same fashion as how we find out in the lab. So this is the gaps in implication. Gaps in methods, it's with regarding to data collection, analysis, all those things are methods. So the data collection, a particular method, you can see whether the research results will be same if you change the method, or is it is giving a different result. That is also a research gap. Then the concepts. So concepts in research are the central idea. Okay, for example, for us in India, development and growth, how we will find out. We say it, our concept is gross domestic product, national product, or GDP, GNP, and national income calculation, which tell to say that India is progressing. We have around the growth we are growing, right? But think about Bhutan. They say that progress, they are calculating gross national happiness. It is not gross domestic product. So it's a difference in concept. Okay, so this is the gap in concepts. Then we have gap in perspective. Um, Perspective is that you are trying to solve a problem. For example, the poverty issue. Poverty issue is it is a problem. Basically, economics. Yes, because you don't have money, you are poor. Is it only a problem of that it is because you don't have money, you don't have an income, that you become poor? It can also be because many other things can be there. It can be because of the social issue or social class you belongs to is not getting opportunity. That also will make you poor. So it is not just in economics, it's a social issue. It can also be a political issue. The politics tell that uh, certain regions only need to be supported for progress. Then naturally they will also they will become, the rest of the people will become poor. Political issue. So it is a different perspective. You can look it from a different theoretical perspective. So that again contribute to a research gap. Then for example, gap in theory. This way, my favorite example is law of demand. Everybody know what is law of demand. It's from Department of Commerce. So you might know what is law of demand. We say price increases, quantity demanded decreases, price decreases, quantity demanded increases. So this is law of demand. And so what is this exception to law of demand, like if and should? So that is actually the gap in theory. No, it don't work. Theory don't work. certain condition theory didn't work. So that became a research gap for him to explore. Robert Giffen find out because he found that this particular theory didn't work. There is a gap in the theory, and it become a finding. Then gap in methodology. So there are a lot of confusion on what is method and what is methodology. Method is the tool you use, and methodology is specification for a particular tool to be used. So this is the difference, basic difference between what is a method and what is a methodology. And methodology is the rationale for research approach. So for example, you have seen that a particular work has been done in a participatory manner. The methodology uses a participatory manner. That means you become a participant in the research work, in the day-to-day life of a particular community, and try to understand by participating in their day-to-day activities how it is being and make inference out of it. This can be a way of doing research, and you find certain results. You can also do the same thing in a different methodology, like ethnography, explore the social world and culture. So from different tools in ethnography, you explored the same thing and found out a different set of results. So this is again a gap in methodology. When you identify, so the gaps can be of these 8 kinds. So the point is, certain known things, certain unknown things, and then we find out what all are the inconsistencies, controversies, conflicts, and contradictions which are raised, which is contributing to this gap. So this will give you a better understanding um, um, uh, on how to identify a research gap. After you identify a research gap, uh, then the application of research gap, that is what is your, basically speaking, what is your storyline. So whenever we go outside India for any workshops or training program, not the conferences but the workshops and training programs, when we discuss your research, they have this in the first thing they ask, what is your storyline. So here you are articulating your research problem. It is not one line question with question mark. It is articulating your story, and what is the climax of your story is your research gap. So this is what, how you apply your research gap. And that articulation will leads to your research problem. uh, uh, this articulation will leads to your strengthening your research gap and your research problem, and then your objective and methodology. So this is what it is about. And I think it is time now. We have close to so what is the storyline discussion. It is not just remember one thing, it is storyline is always very important, because you are talking a story which will give you some idea about why it is interesting, how it is how can it be interesting to the rest of the people, and also it can give you whether the story is already told one or not told one. Okay, and is the story can be have a climax within the same period of time which we anticipate. So this is what in the application of research gap we will discuss. So this is all about my presentation, and I can be reached for commands to rooswinesamuel@gmail.com if you have any queries, or means post this. Right now we will be throwing up, I'll be ready to answer to your questions. But still there are I frankly speaking, and I when I did my first presentation in May 2000, I mean in during this lockdown period, I did my first presentation on May 11th, and the it is through the participants from that conference, I have reached out to me for various things. Not this webinar is also one of that. And also if they have, some of them has submitted a proposal, and they have asked them to because my topic was on how to write a research proposal. So some people have sent me their research proposal which they have submitted in the last 1 month and asked me to give a clarification. So any such things you can ask me. You can write your comments to rosewinesamuel@gmail.com. Now I think we can open for questions. Organizers. Hello. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so that's about the presentation. Last 15 minutes we can spend on 10 to 12 minutes we can spend on question answers, if any we can address.
Sure. So Dhanalakshmi Haridas, could you please unmute yourself? If you have a question, you can unmute yourself and ask. Dhanalakshmi, could you please unmute yourself? Ma'am, I have one question from Saranya ma'am. The question is, what is a white paper? That's the question.
White paper, it's again it give an understanding of a topic, but it is not a journal publication. It is something your research thought has been explained without any some journals are ready to, it don't go through the peer review and all those normal processes. Your thought process is being used to communicate in a very precise to the audience in a faster way. That is ultimately that is the purpose of a white paper. So that is why we use white papers. So it is a extension of a brochure, I will tell.
Okay. Well, ma'am, the next question goes this way: how to identify gap in analysis?
See, for example, I will just go back to the. This is the slide, right? Okay. See, for example, it depends upon the when you do the literature review, you may find out what all variables has been used to study this particular research gap. But in the field, or when you talk, you will say that it is not that many variables. There are some extra variables which need to be used in this particular analysis, which is not identified by the existing researchers. So you will use those variables in addition to the existing variables in your analysis and see whether the results are different. So this is how we generally come into the the gaps in analysis is used and so for example, the example I have given, so whenever you do the um, for example, if I am trying to find out the cost benefit analysis, which is a very common one which anybody can understand also, see what is the cost incurred for producing a particular product, and what is the benefit is the selling price, of course, or what is the price I got, revenue I got. So this is a model which everybody used. But when I what we do is we end up when I calculate the cost, I calculated something like the raw materials, the labor charges, the interest I paid, and all those things I added. But I missed to add that how many times I made a phone calls, or I have gone to a government agents to get approval to this particular product. It is also important, no, that actually it is called the transaction cost. Sometimes these kind of things will not incorporate in your analysis. So that is a gap which we can address. So you need to, again, it will come from the literature review only, or from that is a one first and foremost one. In a particular existing analysis, there will be some models which we have used, which models in the sense these are the variables which are used to study. You find some extra variables to incorporate. That is gap in analysis.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is from Dr. S.D. Fatima Banu. She first wants to compliment you for a great session that you have put across. And the
Okay.
question that she has is, she wants you to explain about meta-analysis, ma'am.
Meta-analysis.
Yes,
Well, I'm
ma'am.
not an expert in that. Sorry, I cannot do that.
Okay.
Meta-analysis is a method, but you need to be an expert to explain on it. And one session is not enough. Neither I have not worked on meta-analysis.
Well, ma'am, I'll move on to the next question. So this question is from Sukanya Kumar. So the question goes this way: if we find research gap, then what is the next
Mm.
process?
Once we find the research gap, next process is research. You have to articulate your research problem, then the objective, and then the method. Once you research from the research gap, I found a problem. See, for example, I said right now I'm working on it. Because of COVID-19 effect on agriculture, it leads to food security issues. Okay, so this is a research gap which is not analyzed. So I identified that problem, but I cannot study the entire food security problem of the world or India or a particular across. It required a lot of time, money, and energy, and also it should be funded at a very higher level. So maybe I will start with what is the effect of what will be the food security issues among the small and medium class laborers because of COVID-19. So I just put that down into a specific research problem I want to study. Okay, so here, even though after you find a research gap and you articulated it, the story is right. It is storyline, but we cannot completely research it. You have to now, next step is to push it to the next level of research, research problem and a problem, and then to the objectives, or research problem to research questions, and then to the objectives, and then to the methodology. Always from the problem you find the research question. I'm not going to solve the entire problem. As I have told, it is like, you are one bead in this whole string of chain. That problem is that chain. If we solve the entire problem, it will look like a beautiful chain, but what you solve will be just one bead to that particular problem. So that one bead, identifying that one bead what you will be working on, is your next step. That is your research question, and then to your objective, and then to the methodology you will move to that. Yes.
Okay, ma'am, the next question is from Gayatri, ma'am. So the question goes this way: what's the difference between variable, factor, and constructs?
What is it?
What's the difference between variable, factor, and constructs?
Variable, factors, and concepts, right? Am I
Concepts.
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sorry.
yeah.
Variables are the it's like, for example, if I want to study the how will we calculate GDP? Basic, everybody know what is GDP, because every year we will come. So we are actually valuing the production, okay, which is happen in an economy for a particular given period of time. So here the variable, what we will do, we will divide it to primary, secondary, tertiary sector, and then again the next level, uh, what will come under primary, secondary, and tertiary sector, and from that firm, which all firm come under this sector, and then we aggregate it. So we find out the variables are these primary, secondary, tertiary. When we divide it, those are the variables. But the concept is how you define a particular phenomena. For you, the growth means it is defined as my improvement in GDP. That is a concept. Okay, my growth, my country's growth is defined as improvement is gross national happiness. That is a concept. So that is the difference between a concept and a variable. I hope you understood. So concept is it's the way you look at a problem, and variable is the elements which you use to resolve that problem. Yes.
Okay, ma'am. Well, the next question is from Saranya, ma'am. So the question goes this way: can a model from psychology and another existing model from management with some related concepts be combined together to arrive at a
Yes,
new model for testing and validation?
yes, it is
And
possible.
will, will this be called as identification of research gap?
Yes, because I have told this research gap also incorporate gap in perspectives. Okay, those are gaps in perspectives. You cannot solve a problem with one particular subject, which is an accepted fact internationally. India is still yet to understand that. Many people think that science is superior to social science, and social scientists are not ready to accept it, frankly. This is a Indian mentality, frankly. But at an international platform now, they have merged the science, uh, 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 the superior body of and make it an interdisciplinary one. So a problem cannot be sorted with one subject theoretical know-how in a particular subject alone. These days research are moving towards more interdisciplinary and interdisciplinary works, and my PhD work was interdisciplinary, and now whatever research projects I do are also interdisciplinary. I collaborate with the scientist and social scientist together, because basically I'm a social scientist. My work is on economics. So sometimes the problem cannot be sorted in with one discipline only. So to get trigger, and these days people are going for transdisciplinary, interdisciplinary work. So it is gaps in perspective, and it is definitely possible to do. Yes.
Great, ma'am. Well, next question is from Dr. Amit Kashyap. So he asks, how to find out the research gap in the domestic violence against women in India and its comparative analysis with other nations?
That itself is a research gap, no? See, that is a research gap you have identified. Okay, you have to validate it now with the literature review. Validation can be on like whether it is interesting, whether it is feasible to study, or is it unexplored. You need to do your literature review is and validate whether that research gap is sound enough to explore further. That will here I mean, you have identified the gap. Now weakness of, I mean, I hope this is a research gap, and now you have to sense whether that can create a research opportunity for you. That is there a possibility of adding any extra information on this subject with your work? If it is there, explore it.
Okay. Ma'am, in the interest of time, we'll take one last question. This is from Gayatri, ma'am. The question goes this way: whether PhD in interdisciplinary is recognized.
Yes, it is recognized. It is as per the UGC norms now. It is recognized, and only as per the 2009 norms, you need to have a co-guide from the other discipline you are you're working on. So for example, if my work is having if your work is, I'm basically in my master. See, how will we align your PhD? It is based on your master degree. If your master degree is in economics or in business, then your PhD will automatically go through the stream which is under that. Okay, but my work require a natural science input. Then you should have a co-guide from the science background, and co-guide can be from any stream. It is not mandatory that it should be from the stream or the department you work with. It can be from an outsider also, no problem. A co-guide can be from outside also. So it is recognized, and it is possible, and it is more encouraged today, rather than the single discipline approach which we are having in our contemporary universities like that. But it is been now encouraged well. So you can go ahead with interdisciplinary. In fact, one of the PhD scholar I am guiding is actually MA English. She's an MA English and linguistics.
and then she is now working on. I'm basically, my PhD work is on environmental economics. So her work is on environmental communication. So I'm guiding her. But I have a co-guide also from the language so that is how we are doing that PhD, her PhD. She is working on environmental communication from the perspective of sacred groves in Kerala. So that is her work about. It is possible and it is acceptable also.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, I would request Supraja ma'am to take over the webinar.
Sure, sir. Thank you. On behalf of the Department of Commerce, Ethiraj College for Women, I sincerely express my heartfelt thanks to our esteemed speaker, Dr. Rosemary Joy, for her enlightening insights on identifying and addressing research gaps effectively. It will definitely help all the research enthusiasts amongst the teaching fraternity connected today to efficiently sense the problems of tomorrow and string the beads of research with ease. Thank you, ma'am. I also thank our dear participants for their enthusiastic participation, thus making the session a grand success. Before winding up, I would like to remind all participants to kindly join in tomorrow for the session US versus India, an accountant's view by Ms. Vidya Madhubala Rajashekar, Credit Risk Associate and Assistant Vice President, MUFG Bank Limited, USA, at 11 a.m. The participants are also requested to register for tomorrow's session, for which the registration link will be shared on the WhatsApp group shortly. Thank you once again. Good day.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Good day. Bye.
Bye.